Thank you so much for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Exciting to be here. I mean, you're doing this for the last 6 years. That's crazy. I mean, congrats. And yeah, I mean, I would love to do this as interactive as possible. I do have a presentation and I will share the screen, but I would also love to hear from everyone here. What do you actually think what the metaverse is? Or do you have like, do you already have experience with the metaverse? Have you already been in the metaverse? I will just ask this openly, and anyone who wants to speak up or write in the chat, please feel free to do that now. If no one wants to start, I will start with a little bit of self-promotion, actually. So I'm sharing this as a slideshow. I think that should work. Are you all seeing the slides? Perfect. Okay, so basically I'm the founder of XR Bootcamp. And we started XR Bootcamp, I mean, me and my co-founder, together in 2020. And yeah, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. So obviously an online academy, it's become an online instead of an on-site academy. And what we are basically known for is for educating engineers, educating software developers to enable them to be able to develop software applications in the virtual reality and the augmented reality and the mixed reality space. And what is actually special about us? Well, first of all, there is not this type of advanced level courses out there. Also, we are always teaching and training, and you're learning from the best of the best. So for us, it's very, very important that you're really learning from the people that have their own top level XR projects ongoing. We have a very, very big XR developer community. There are actually over 3,000 people now in there. And yeah, so basically for us, it's all about real world projects, all about actually when we are doing beginner level courses, to also do coding boot camps from beginner level to hero level, and then to also place people into jobs. Right now we have like a 100% hiring rate in the end. And that's also due to the large demand, of course, in the XR industry, because it's strongly growing. And yeah, there's lots of big companies obviously taking our courses. And yeah, there is someone who has written in the chat, by the definition of what the metaverse has been described as, I don't think it will exist for many, many years yet. Do you mean like in the future? Yeah, I will go over the metaverse definition. So let's start. So why is everyone actually talking about the metaverse? And I just want to basically go over some very cool things that have happened over the last few years. So there's all kinds of basically virtual reality, metaverse spaces, which, for example, like there's a Fortnite, obviously this big game, and there's a few people, a few celebrities which have hosted concerts there, which is actually really, really cool, because instead of just having like a few thousand or 10,000s of people in one stadium, one big stadium in the metaverse, of course, or in Fortnite, in this game Fortnite, you can of course host many, many more people than you could ever in reality. So for example, for Travis Scott, there is up to 30 million people in this concert. And also with this concert in Fortnite, he made around 50 million. And when you compare the revenues of these types of concerts to the real concerts, of course, you could ever, because like if you're taking basically charging all these 30 million people, you're of course earning much more than if you can only host tens of thousands of people in reality. So that's why there is lots of celebrities which are actually now starting, like Ariana Grande has also like hosted a concert in Fortnite. There was also Justin Bieber, he has hosted a concert, and of course there's many, many more people coming. And especially over the pandemic, of course, it was a great alternative to hosting concerts. And of course, there's lots of like really big brands, really big luxury brands, which are also selling their for example, their purses, like Gucci did that. And in some cases, when these brands are really able to hype up these events, these sales events, they can go for more than actually in reality. So that, you can see this purse, this B purse here, and it has been sold for $4,000, for over $4,000, whereas in reality, if you would want to buy it, it's only $3,000. So you can actually make more revenues in metaverse platforms than you can in reality in some cases. And obviously, I think all of you have heard of Decentraland. It's basically one of these spaces, virtual spaces, where you can also buy real estate. And there have been up to now 21,000 real estate transactions versus 110 million. So I think if you buy real land on the world, it's still more expensive than this. But yeah, there is obviously there's different metaverse platforms where you can buy real estate for a lot of money, and also trade with it and earn money, of course. So yeah, what is it actually? I mean, there's a lot of people, and I don't think there is one person which has really found the perfect definition of the metaverse. But for me, I took, because Kathy Heckel, she's really very renowned in the space. She's called the godmother of the metaverse, basically. And for her, what I like very much, she's basically saying that the metaverse is existing at this intersection of VR, AR, AI, cloud, blockchain, crypto, and 5G. And yeah, it's basically enabling us to have this digital identity, to basically build a digital identity and to interact with each other on a much more immersive way in this metaverse, which I think everyone agrees with. The metaverse itself doesn't exist yet. And there is some misconceptions, and obviously there is a lot of hype as well. I put this little graph here on the right to like basically, yeah, when we were back in 2020, there was all these like different words, right, from potato to social media to internet to e-commerce to digital avatars, etc., right? And you had all different words for everything. And then, yeah, last year everything you could just say metaverse to everything, which is basically showing how confusing this word actually is, and how like no one right now is really sure about what it's going to be, right? So yeah, I mean, just like some metaverse myth I want to basically debunk. So it should of course not replace real life. I mean, some of us may have watched the movie Ready Player One, and in Ready Player One, it really looks like as if we are all going to basically live in this virtual reality. I think that's not like basically what we should all hope for. I think just like the internet or social media, it's just going to be another platform, another digital platform where we're going to interact, where we're going to be social, and where we basically have more opportunities for ourselves to relate to others. Yeah, and there is basically, if we are looking at the metaverse with a capital M, it should be just one. So similar to this word of the internet, to the definition of the internet, it's just a description of a digital space. So it's not that there's like multiple metaverses. Of course, there's like lots of different metaverse platforms, but there's just, if you take the capital M word, there's just one metaverse. And even so, though I am from the augmented reality and the virtual reality space, obviously that's not the metaverse, because AR/VR is just basically describing the device that you're using to access the metaverse, but of course you can also access metaverse platforms through your laptop or through your computer or even your mobile phone. And even though gaming is one very, very big part, of course, like we're seeing with this Fortnite platform, Fortnite is one metaverse platform, but it's not the metaverse. And obviously it's not just about gaming, because as we've seen, it's also about concerts and also having social experiences there. And then I think what's very interesting is basically how do we actually distinguish this whole world of Web3 and then also the metaverse from each other. And Web3 for me means much more this whole blockchain decentralization space, and Web3 is obviously one big building block of the metaverse, but Web3 is very well defined as this decentralized space, whereas the metaverse doesn't crucially have to be decentralized, can also be centralized platforms. And yeah, in the metaverse, I mean, when you're looking at the numbers of how many people are playing on different metaverse platforms like Fortnite, like 50 million of people, I think, per month are definitely attending. Yeah, it's really like for big groups of people, and it's basically our next digital platform. Yeah, so So just to describe that, so there is basically these three technologies, these metaverse worlds, platforms such as for example, Decentraland, or platforms like Fortnite. There's even already today, there's 300 to 500 million active users. Then Web3 technologies are definitely one of the big building blocks, of course. And then AR, VR, MR platforms, like basically the devices, are also all building this whole metaverse, capital M term. Yeah, so basically these are, when we're looking at what's happening today, these are the biggest metaverse platform, metaverse worlds, like the Sandbox, VRChat, Zepeto, Roblox, and Fortnite. And yeah, I mean, they all have basically, I mean, Roblox, Fortnite, and Sandbox are really having large revenues already. For Zepeto, we don't know that because an Asian platform, we don't have so much data about that, and VRChat as well. So yeah, I mean, it's really like different target groups as well. Of course, obviously the older generation is not yet that that present there yet, but yeah, I just wanted to show that to basically explain these metaverse worlds which are already existing and which also have different use cases. Basically for Fortnite, it's really gaming, and Roblox is really like you're generating your own content there, and you're playing around with what you have there to build different buildings, to build different environments. And VRChat, it's really like to have like different social experiences with different kind of peoples, to play games together and to meet new people. And yeah, and then it's like also the Sandbox, it's more for like a trading, for like more of like an NFT marketplace. I'm always quickly checking the chat when I'm seeing something. Okay. Yeah, so there's different layers. Yeah, so let's look at it, what it is today. So as I said already, like I think it's always very astonishing to see how many people and how much money is actually already being made on metaverse platforms. So there's 55 million daily active users on Roblox, on this platform where you can basically build your own environments. And yeah, so I think also what's interesting, obviously Meta is one of the companies which is really investing heavily into the space. So Meta is investing 10 billion per year actually in metaverse and virtual reality development per year, so into hiring people, into educating people. And yeah, and they have already shipped 80% of these 11 million XR headsets, which have been sold worldwide by Meta. And if anyone wants to try, I can really only recommend to buy the Quest 2. It's a very fun headset. It's not too expensive, and yeah, it's a cool opportunity to get started in this space. And what we want to do in tomorrow, in the future, it's of course like one big thing which everyone is dreaming of is of course interoperability. So that would mean that basically if you buy like an asset in one world, that you can also move it to another game or another world. And that's super difficult to actually implement, because of course every different, for example, gaming company or every different company that is building their own world, they don't have too much incentive to actually enable this interoperability, because that would not increase your revenue, because you want to sell your own assets to your own users, obviously, and you don't want people to bring their own assets from different platforms. So that's like a big question mark on how we're going to enable that. And yeah, hopefully that's going to come one world. And yeah, of course, we also like to really like have like an immersive metaverse. It would be amazing if everyone had like a virtual reality headset at home, and not just access it from a laptop, because like accessing virtual worlds from a VR headset is just so much more fun. And yeah, and will convince people so much more to actually spend time in virtual reality than just like accessing these spaces through your laptop. And yeah, I mean, just these are like some statistics also for investments in the space. I always think that's especially when you're seeing that basically like in 2022, like this year, like only up to now, and we are only like half done with the year, right? There's already 105 billion US dollars invested in the space. And that's a large number, especially when you, for example, compare it to AI investments, so artificial intelligence investments. When you look at that, it's only like $40 billion. So the metaverse space, the virtual reality space, obviously has a huge attraction. Even though we are right now like probably in an economic recession, even though the numbers should look much worse, there is still huge, very large investments going on in the space, and that's that's a very positive outlook basically on the future. Yeah, so yeah, and I mean, we can basically imagine in the future, like how will metaverse actually help us? How will we actually like use it in our daily lives as a consumer? Obviously, and we've already talked about that, it's gaming, right? Or especially virtual reality games are really so much more immersive. And when you're like also doing fitness games in virtual reality, it's so much more fun. It can add so much more to your daily routine to do, like basically to fight people, to fight burglars, to fight evil people in virtual reality and do your workout at the same time. Then your workout of 1 hour will look like 5 minutes only. Or doing socializing in virtual reality, especially in times of pandemics, which will definitely come again, unfortunately. Or like when nature, when climate change is affecting us a lot, so that we can only stay at home. I think socializing in virtual reality is also like a great opportunity. And obviously, like what big brands are looking at right now, like how can they make actually shopping much more entertaining in virtual reality. So when you're like going to a website today and just looking for your product, of course you can buy it very quickly. But what about like going to a cool shopping mall, to a very entertaining shopping mall in virtual reality? Then you could actually have much more fun, meet your friends there, and then also do your shopping there together with others. And obviously learning, I mean, for us, for XR Bootcamp, we are also teaching in virtual reality. And especially for brainstorming, that's amazing, because all our students are coming mostly from the US, coming mostly from Canada, and then we are all basically sitting together in one space and brainstorming together and giving feedback together. And it just enables, I mean, I really recommend you to try it, because it really gives you another feeling of presence, so that you really feel like you're with other people, and it gives you a whole different experience than just sitting in front of a Zoom camera. So that's really cool. And yeah, so, and there's of course lots of different, when we're looking at where to go with this whole space, there's of course lots of consumer interviews, which we have to look at to see what is actually, where the masses going to, and what do people actually prefer to do. And this one, I took this one because I thought that's really interesting. If you're asking people, okay, do you actually want to do things digitally, or do you prefer to do them all physically? Because of course, like doing activities physically is amazing, right? Like as it's here, like one of the examples, right? Like do you prefer going on a date like in a virtual space, right, online, or do you actually prefer to do it physically, right? Or like same with fitness or social or shopping or education. And there's actually 60% which say, well, one of them, I definitely would prefer to do it basically virtually. And that shows, I mean, 60% is definitely more than the majority. And and for example, shopping is a big example, of course. And attending virtual events and games, it can be so much fun to do that online, and can also like, it removes basically the hassle of traveling around and being in traffic, and having all these like annoying things, which sometimes makes you prefer things to do things in the virtual world. And there's, of course, a lot of different example use cases which we could talk about. And I would love to do this a little bit more interactive. So like if you have any questions now, really, I would love to just take questions actually, because there's a lot of business models, of course, for all these different use cases, and I can definitely go over them if you want, but I would love to like, hear questions and see what you would actually like to hear more about.
There was actually a question in the chat. Mm-hmm. And this person, so Karinder, he asked, how will it benefit with disability? That's the question. I don't know if Karinder wants to mention or like give more detail? Don't know if it's here, but yeah, how will that be for disability?
Yeah. I mean, I just like will, what I understand from this question is that you're asking how will the metaverse basically benefit you if you have like a certain disability. And I think there's so many things basically, because like everything, because with a disability, it obviously depends on what type of disability. But I'm just imagining, for example, right now, if you cannot move around, right? Or like Estefania, you were just sick and you, I mean, it's just like when you have like some kind of like disability and you cannot go out. I mean, it's just amazing when you can, for example, just like put on your headset, right? And just like have an immersive experience and almost feel like you're really outside, or you're really somewhere else. Like you can meet friends, or you can really entertain yourself, or you can do some healthy activities and healthy movements, right? It's just so much better than just sitting at home in front of your TV, right? Because you can actually become active, and you can actually become proactive, and you can, and you don't need to be passive, and you're not so much restricted anymore. So I think especially for people with disabilities, it's an amazing opportunity, because it's opening up your world and it's giving you so many more opportunities which you didn't have before. So.
I have a question regarding that. Which kind of also disabilities, you know, like there are so many different, how is it like accessible or responsive? You know, one thing is like we understand disability is also like not being able to move, like you mentioned me for a while, hopefully improving. But also, yeah, it's like this other kind of disabilities that it's basically like for blind people, you know, like I don't know if there's any advance in that sense.
I mean, obviously, like blind people, I mean, even when you're blind in reality, it's also like very difficult, right? So like being blind, obviously, like also with a laptop, it's very difficult, right? I hope that medicine is going to advance, that we can all like, when we're blind, basically, that we can gain our sight again, right? But I'm not a medical person. I don't know how many more years we have to wait for that, right? But yeah, I think like, I mean, there's like mental disabilities, right? Like mental things. And there's a lot of actually, like, for example, for virtual reality, there's a lot of like treatment now available for all types of mental, there's a lot of pain therapy, so that you don't have to take actually medication anymore. But like the virtual reality experiences, they make you experience like some relaxation activity or some meditation. And then you actually like, I mean, they're already like doing a lot of studies on that topic, that when you're having these type of experiences, you don't have to take so much more pain medication, because actually it's relieving your brain from the pressure from the brain. So that's actually very, very helpful. And then there's all types of therapies, for example, for phobia treatment, right? Because you can expose yourself to different, like, for example, when you're scared of heights, right? Or you're scared of spiders, then you just like have these experiences in virtual reality, and you're training yourself together with a doctor, of course. And you can basically learn to not be scared of these things anymore. Or you can basically, when you're like have social anxiety, you can expose yourself to social situations in virtual reality, which are either real, like with real people, or which are just like video recordings basically. And then you can train yourself to how to like basically interact with people in a social setting. And that has also proven to be super, super helpful for people with these kind of like mental problems, right? Or like there's basically for anorexia, there's anorexia treatment where you're basically confronting yourself with your own body image, and are able to like, it's actually because anorexia has been shown that it cannot be treated like over your lifetime, even though you're always in therapy. So and actually virtual reality treatments has been proven to be one of the most effective treatments for eating disorders. So that's also amazing. So yeah, I mean, I'm talking not about the metaverse here, but more about virtual reality use cases, right? But I think there's lots of different helpful apps and helpful games and helpful applications that can really help you with all types of disabilities or sicknesses. Of course, it's not the technology that's going to solve the world issues, right? But at least it's a little bit of advancements to lots of different issues.
Thanks. There's another question. You can read it also yourself, I think. You're doing it, Joe. There is a question also from Monica. I was wondering wondering what is the use case for insurances.
Yeah.
If there's anything about the metaverse for the insurance industry.
Yeah, it really depends on what type of insurance, of course, but there's also a lot of banks which are now using virtual reality. There was actually just 1 week ago, or I mentioned Kathy Hackel right in the beginning, because she's like the godmother of the metaverse, and she actually just launched the NASDAQ, like the trade exchange on virtual reality. So there's in VR, there is now the NASDAQ, so you can go online and trade actually in this environment. Of course, it's all like focused on increasing customer engagement, right, with your brand. So you can increase a lot of brand awareness by basically having these kind of virtual reality spaces where you can meet with your customers. So basically your customers come into these virtual spaces and they meet either with representatives or they are just interacting with whatever game you have. So it's a lot of branding and a lot of community management actually there. And that's where all brands are actually moving towards to right now. That like, I mean, of course, like social media, etc. Everyone knows that, everyone is already aware there's not so much increasing returns anymore. So all brands, all big brands, from insurance to all types of banks, to all types of industries, are basically looking to increase their branding and their community management. That's one thing. And then of course, customer service. So for insurances, there's of course all these I think there's actually some experience. So for example, when you want to have an insurance against fire or something, you can just visualize that so much more impressive. Like you can basically build someone's house, right, in virtual reality, and then let it burn down, and then have your customer experience that. And like, no doubt, he will immediately take the insurance, because he will just be so scared that this ever happened, because it's such an emotional experience. Like virtual reality experiences are so much more emotional than just reading about it, because you're really experiencing it and you're feeling it. So especially for insurance, actually, you can just like all these like cases, all these like 1% chances of something happening, you can just visualize that very nicely in virtual reality and basically scare people enough to take the insurance. I would say that I'm sure there's lots of insurances which are already working on that. And then of course there's a lot of like as an insurance, maybe you don't have like you probably have a hotline or something where people call, and then you can basically just like do that in an immersive space as well, to make it a little bit more enjoyable for people to maybe wait for the next customer representative and stuff like that. So there's really lots of different things what you can do as an insurance, and also internal trainings. There's a lot of like for example, Accenture, right? Accenture just bought 60,000 headsets, 60,000 virtual reality headsets for their employees, only for their employees. And to train them, to basically onboard them, to like let them know what is the processes in the company, and how do we interact with each other. So there's a lot of soft skills trainings in virtual reality. There's a lot of like basically trainings on cultural training, right? So which you can do amazingly in virtual reality, which you couldn't do in the same way by just watching a video, because it's just much more interactive and you're really learning by experience. And that's why virtual reality is just so much better than just like letting people watch a video, because you can really like have people feel and learn by experience. And that's why, for example, Accenture and actually Walmart and many big companies are now deciding to only train people, to only onboard people internally in these kind of virtual reality experiences, because it's just proven to be much, much more effective than anything else you can do. So there's lots of different use cases for different industries, actually.
Then I will take the chance to ask you, which one do you personally find the most interesting, or
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's really like the soft skills part, because I find, because like, for example, conflict management, right? So you have maybe like you're fighting with your manager, or you're a little bit scared of your manager or your boss, or you like have like a very difficult colleague, right? And these things, they in reality, like in your office environment, they basically only happen like once every like few months or so, or maybe only once a year, you know? But to me personally, these are like the most scary experiences, right? And I wish I would be more prepared when they happen. And I think virtual reality, it's just because you can be in these like team and management settings, right? And you can just exercise how to talk to people, and then also be evaluated afterwards, and also like train yourself on how to do it better. And it's just like this kind of like real life experience you can train and become better and like have better soft skills. That's I think that's just an amazing thing to do. So that's, for me, that's one of the best use cases, basically. And I also think, like, because we don't have especially after the pandemic, right? We really didn't have so many social interactions as we maybe had before. So I think maybe we need, or we feel more confident if we have a little bit more training beforehand, that it's actually nice to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, soft skills for the work environment, but also in general, there would be, I can think about a few good trainings also. Anyone has any other question? Just feel free to speak up or write it in the chat. Anyone? I can think about a million questions about the metaverse because it's.
Yeah, I have a few more slides I can just show, and I'll just, because I think they're interesting.
Great.
So basically, yeah, I mean, I'm in education, right? And we are always upskilling people, especially in the development part. And yeah, I mean, there's like this was like from McKinsey. Basically, they asked executives what they think is actually missing for them to implement metaverse strategies, right? And the biggest part basically which is missing, and which is basically lack of experience for everyone involved, is basically the business model building. And then already is coming the product development and coding, right? And then infrastructure, back-end engineering, so really hard skills, right? And I think, yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to get into this space, I think the most important is always, if you already have like some kind of expertise, like, for example, if you already know business model building, right, then just educate yourself on the metaverse strategies or metaverse business models, and then you will immediately like, I mean, the demand for such people, which basically know both, like have an expertise in like a general business model, plus like then like, yeah, upskill themselves to be proficient in metaverse business model buildings. I mean, they're really high in demand, right? And that's basically for every types of expertise, right? If you're like a marketer, and then you're like basically upskilling yourself to know metaverse marketing, right? These kind of people, like everyone who has like some kind of subject matter expertise, and then upskills themselves towards yeah, something metaverse and how to like implement their type of subject matter expertise in the metaverse. I mean, there's just a high demand, because as I already showed on all these graphs, the industry is growing so quickly and exponentially that there's just so much opportunity in this space that I'm always like amazed of like, yeah, how much you can do, and where you can, all these things where you can go into all these spaces. And yeah, and just I wanted to also like say a few words about basically how, maybe there's in the chat there's something. What's your process in coming up with the metaverse strategy, given that the metaverse is still growing and involves many different? Well, it's basically the process. It's just about like doing it, right? It's yeah, I will just have a slide on that 1 second. Yeah, so basically, like, obviously, the metaverse right now, it's not regulated at all, right? Because it's super, super new. It's like everyone is just working on it. Everyone is just really doing whatever they want, right? And obviously, policymakers are not keeping up with the space, right? It's a little bit like same what has happened with social media, right? There's many things which can be criticized about social media, and which are not basically regulated in a good way. And the same obviously is happening right now, unfortunately, in the same way in the metaverse, right? So obviously you don't want to be like, yeah, for example, like this Lego Ventures. Lego is very big in the metaverse space as well. And obviously he's saying, well, don't let, for example, your child walk alone in the metaverse if you wouldn't let your child walk alone outside, right? Because it's kind of like you don't know what's going to happen. It's not regulated. There's nothing which can prevent your child from something bad happening, right? And that's also why I think also, like, if you're, for example, an expertise in the policy space, I think that's so important to go to the metaverse space now, because if you're like setting the correct good strategies, good policies right now, I think we could all benefit from that, because the metaverse, and especially the virtual reality space, obviously has the potential to be so much more addictive than anything before. So I think we should set regulations now where we actually still have the chance to set regulations, right? And not afterwards, after everything has been basically implemented. And yeah, so basically, obviously, there's like very classic strategies on how to prepare businesses for the metaverse. So you should, of course, first define your goals, what you actually want to achieve. As we've talked about it before, right? There's so many different things which you can achieve, like from customer engagement, from community building, changing how your product itself is being built, right? Or how your employees are actually learning. So you can use Metaverse in such very, very different ways that, of course, you need to first define in which space do you actually want to go first, right? And for yourself, obviously, where do you want to bring your personal expertise in? And then you're just testing it, you're launching small use cases, small initial activities, and then you can basically build on these experiences, build on these results, and learn more about the users. Because for many brands, what they're seeing, obviously, is that, for example, when you're doing this kind of community management, or for example, these Gucci, right? They definitely don't have the same buyers in the virtual world like they have in the real world, right? Because in the digital world, you are basically taking people who are really digital natives, who are really young, who are really like, defining their status in the digital world. And that's coming more and more, like that, like instead of like really having expensive clothes, I want to show off in the digital world. I want to show off that I'm using this kind of technology to basically prove to others that that I have a certain type of status. And then you can, and once you have done these kind of initial use cases, of course, you can start scale and embed it really in your long-term strategies for your company. And then, if you have not so much experience right now with all of these things, I think the most important thing is really to just do it and to just get started doing something in the metaverse. Like, I mean, as I said, there's so many different areas that you can work in or that you can basically learn more about. And for me, obviously, I would just like always suggest to get the Quest 2. It's a super affordable headset. It's like 350 euros. I mean, it's like less than any other gaming equipment you could buy. And there's just so many different virtual reality apps, virtual reality games that you can use and just like see how powerful it actually is. And then obviously there's all these platforms like Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft, which you can just do on your laptop. You can just check these platforms and just check maybe these concerts which are going on, or like buy something. You know, the important thing is always like, to engage with the content, right? And to also like, hey, I mean, it doesn't have to be expensive things, right? Like there's things for 1 year or something, but just like buy something just to learn the process and just learn what you can actually do with the items you bought. And just spend time on the communities. There's on all these platforms, on all games, on all things. There's a lot of big communities on Twitch and on Discord where you can engage, where you can talk with people, and where you can just become active and learn basically the mindset of these spaces. And for us, I mean, we're doing so many meetings, and for us as XR Bootcamp, we're doing lots of meetings in virtual reality. We are working in virtual reality because it's just a very comfortable. It's become very, very comfortable spaces, very useful spaces for us as teams. And then obviously you can just buy small, very, very inexpensive NFTs or some inexpensive cryptocurrencies. So obviously you should always like research beforehand why you're buying it, and that process of just like trying it out, you know, will just get you into the space and also increase your understanding. I think there's always this very theoretical understanding, and then there's a practical understanding. And at least for me personally, I always feel like when I do things practically, I just learn so much more, so much faster, that I think I would just always advise that to everyone.
Definitely. Well, I think it's, for me, I would be still a bit skeptical about real estate, buying land, but I have a question. What about, is it possible to kind of rent instead of buying? Like, do you really have to buy your equipment? What would you suggest if, for example, me, I want to, have a first experience, but I'm not decided to buy the equipment, etc.
I mean, for example, for the virtual reality headset, right? I mean, obviously there's lots of conferences, like tech conferences, where these different gaming, like for example, there's GamesCon, like which is coming up in Cologne. I would recommend for everyone to go, and you can just try it there. Obviously you have to wait, right? And there's also like companies like Rover or like other rental companies where you can just get it for a few days and then try it for a few days and not pay so much, right? Or you can just like, I mean, all headsets you can buy, you always have a 30-day return period, right? You can keep it for 30 days, you can return it. Just like if you don't like it, but I'm sure you will like it and you will actually want to keep it. So you can just do that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. But obviously, like, you should have someone who's like basically guiding you a little bit. I mean, either you're doing a lot of research by yourself, obviously, on what kind of experiences to try, because I think it's yeah, it's very important that you're basically knowing a little bit what to try and where to go, and that you're not just randomly scrolling around, because then you will probably miss out on the best parts of it.
Great. There was also one more question actually in the chat. What's your process in coming up with a metaverse strategy, given that the metaverse itself is still evolving and involves many different building blocks?
Yeah, I mean, I think I went over that in the slide, right? Like, basically just like define which of these building blocks and which of the use cases you would like to go in, try it first on a small scale project, of course, and then if it works, yeah, scale it up, or try a different one, right? But obviously, yeah, everything is changing all the time, and the platforms that are there today will obviously not be the platforms that will be existing in 5 years, right? There's so much change right now, and also buying real estate doesn't make so much sense right now, because the platforms that are there today probably will not exist in 5 years, right? At least not for like a long-term investment strategy.
Great. So we are going towards the end. Anyone else has a question? Otherwise, I will also ask Rahel how the XR Bootcamp is and provide us a bit more information.
Yeah, I mean, I can just talk about hi, Ferhan.
Yeah, I saw
Hello,
your partner, so maybe you want to tell us more about what is the experience that we can get with the XR Bootcamp, a bit more into detail.
Yeah, definitely. Before that, maybe a few more takeaways in addition to what Rahel already mentioned. Is I think the critical part is it's nice that you follow the right maybe news channels I could recommend, because this is also important to understand the landscape, what Meta, Microsoft, HTC, ByteDance, Apple is trying to do, right? These companies will probably define the future of Metaverse or XR, VR, AR, right? And I always give the example of Nokia, right? When we were starting the mobile industry, we were thinking like Nokia will dominate, but then things change quickly. And this is the same thing in VR, AR world right now. There is no winner or something. So I recommend that you look at the platforms and the use cases as well. Like, there are lots of companies having different use cases, from like heavy industries to e-commerce to marketing as well. The second thing I would also recommend is, even though you maybe a little bit hesitate to buy or rent a headset, eventually you will have, because I don't know, I was not on the first part, but you probably have seen or heard that there are many companies who are actually sending to their employees not only a smartphone and a laptop, but also a VR headset. Why? Because this will be part of your daily business life, right? You will, especially if it's a remote friendly company, VR headset will be, or XR headset will be like part of the equation eventually. We are talking about not even a far future, but like in a few years, you will see big companies will already send headsets, so they can actually do design meetings, their daily check-ins, stand-ups. For us, we are already doing our stand-ups with our students in VR, and we see a huge boost in terms of accountability, in terms of like feeling of presence and team, let's say, harmony. So I recommend anyone here who has maybe a team, already building a team or already part of a team, just as Stefania mentioned, just try out for 1 week and create a space branded space even for your own company and become the initiator of the first in VR meeting. It's really not a big deal to send headsets or to arrange the space. Don't, I mean, 2-3 years ago, I would say that you may need to maybe like set up, etc. But right now, it's just put the headset on and you are already in. It's like you don't even need an agency or something. You can really do by yourself. We also have virtual worlds workshops that we are organizing for companies, especially if you have a specific vertical that we are helping you to explore different use cases and worlds. So you can think of like a virtual guided tour that we are going from one space to another. So it's like a few days workshop. If you are interested here, let us know that we would love to also arrange something for your company. But this is, do not hesitate because it's quite easy to enable that. And regarding XR Bootcamp, actually, we have quite an interesting initiative on the diversity side. Maybe Rahel, would you like to mention about that?
So we are very happy that actually already 1 month ago, we announced the Beyond Inclusion initiative, basically together with XRSI, and XRSI is the XR Safety Initiative. And Kavya Perlman, the founder of the XRSI, is basically very concerned about, as I already said, regulation and policies in the metaverse to make it basically safe for everyone. And also data privacy, of course, is a big part. Children's safety is a big part. So what we've basically done together with XRSI and Meta is sponsoring us in that part, is we want to make the whole industry more diverse and inclusive. Because already what's happening today, when you're doing virtual reality experiences, especially badly programmed virtual reality experiences, it's much more nauseating. Like you're becoming nauseous as a woman, like 30% more than as a male when you're doing it. So already because of the tests, etc., it's done by men, it's done with men. It's really like showing that women are not included on the same level, and it's not as fun for women as for men, obviously. And there's just because like there's not as many female creators, I think virtual reality experiences as a whole, when you look at the industry, actually there's 70% of experiences are created by men. And it's just very sad. And I'm also looking at, of course, like XR Bootcamp, and I'm seeing that, like, I mean, we started in 2020, right? Like, the majority is definitely white and male who's taking our courses. And I'm always sad to see that, because especially these new tech spaces are offering such enormous opportunities for everyone. And as women, or especially as underrepresented communities, we should engage now, and we should basically engage when the ROI, like our returns, when we're investing now into the space, are becoming just so big, right? That I think it's so basically we announced all of this introduction just to announce Beyond Inclusion. So basically we are educating a lot of underrepresented students and a lot of underrepresented talent for free. There's like a 100% scholarship opportunity right now. So we have this 5-month coding bootcamp where you basically can go from 0 to hero, and you can apply and basically get a 100% scholarship sponsored by Meta. And we're also placing our graduates into jobs afterwards. So it's a great opportunity if you just want to change careers, get into tech, or be one of the people who is building the metaverse.
Sounds great, actually. Cool. Actually, the link is already shared on the chat. Yeah. Great. So anyone would like to make any other comment or questions? I also share so XR Bootcamp, our link on the chat, and also our contact details on LinkedIn if you wanna reach out Rahel or us. We have also the website of Business Model Republic, where you can see the past events. And by the way, it's also where we are going to upload this video for those who cannot, who were not able to attend the event. If anyone I mean, if we're done with Q&A, then we can also finish the event a few minutes earlier.
One last remark I can maybe share for everyone here. This is quite a new and rapidly evolving industry. So if you have a subject matter expertise on any vertical, any industry, this is actually adding VR, AR into your subject matter expertise on any vertical is actually bringing huge opportunity to your business and to your career pathway as well. We are always doing mentoring and consulting to companies or individuals. So I just want to tell you that there is still a lot of space that has not been explored yet, especially in terms of specific use cases. Rahel already mentioned some of the outstanding ones, but there are tons of things that have not been explored yet. So just think of like that. Whatever happened in the web and mobile era, right, in this space, or in our real life, right, it will happen in the VR, AR, and Metaverse world. So just think of like that, and eventually someone will find a digital twin representation of these platforms. So I recommend that you start from a specific use case or target group, and then start exploring how I can actually bring a meaningful experience to XR on top of that. Other than that, you can always find creators, solution providers, vendors, partners, but first target and business model is very important. Afterwards, if you already somehow prove the market demand and created some kind of like a product market fit, then the rest is actually not so difficult. So that might be my last comments on that topic.
Great, thank you. So I have to say I personally enjoyed a lot this presentation. Thank you, Rahel. Thank you, Ferran. I already share. If anyone has any other further questions, we can get in touch directly. And so we're closing this session for today. Thank you again, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you again for hosting.
Thank you. Bye.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.